crime stopping, and convention hopping. Here's a look at the new Jakks Pacific, The Simpsons, Bartman. Collect your favorite cartoon characters from the Simpsons TV series with the first wave of the Simpsons 5-inch scale figures featuring basic articulation. These iconic characters from the Simpsons are sure to please cartoon lovers and collectors alike. Perhaps, like Radioactive Man #1, Bartman is the harder figure to find, as he's not even listed on the back of the Wave 1 packaging. The figure, though, is still going to stand similar to Bart in the fact that he's going to still be 3.5 inches in height, or Bartman stands 9 centimeters tall. Speaking of Bart, it was one of the figures we looked at earlier this week. Regular Bart has a neutral expression. Bartman Bart has a scowl on his face. He also has a cape. He also has a different hand. You may notice already that the Bartman Bart does actually have a closed fist. The regular Bart had gripping hands. Bringing in the other figures that we've looked at, here's what he looks like with Homer J. Simpson. Here's what he looks like with Otto. And seeing as we did get a release of Bartman, in fact, it was the only Bart we got from Super 7. I want to bring that one in also as well. There's definitely a big size difference. And one thing I think also that Super 7 did wrong was the coloring of the cowl and the coloring of the cape. I think the one that we get from Jakks Pacific is a little bit more cartoon accurate. I guess we'll get this out of the way right now. The figure does come include with a skateboard that just happens to be the same skateboard that we got with the regular release. Could they not have seen an opportunity to deck out the deck of the skateboard just a little bit different than this one so it doesn't have the same matching Christmas colors? I mean, even the colors of the wheels are exactly the same. If not giving us a different skateboard, at the very least, the plastic, I think, could have been dedicated towards different accessories. Maybe a stack of comics, maybe a signed autograph of Adam West. I don't know. Because if you're likely picking up Bartman, it's probably because you're picking up the entire Simpsons. So you're already out getting a skateboard with Bart. It just seems sort of redundant that we're getting the exact same accessory again. The skateboard does, of course, work the exact same way. There's a peg right in the middle here that if you look on the bottom of his feet, there are 2 peg holes, and that just plugs onto the top. And I mean, he stays okay on the skateboard. You want to make sure sort of that you have the figure leaning forward. But if you have him leaning back, it obviously starts to throw the figure off a little bit unbalancing. One of the things that he does at least come included with that wasn't with the Bart before is a slingshot. The slingshot's molded here in a brown plastic. You can see that he also has a rock already pulled back to fire. Unfortunately, though, here's the problem. The figure doesn't have the proper hand to hold this. I mean, we can already rule out the right away. The figure does have a closed fist. So what is that going to hold? Nothing. 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 He does have, like I said, though, a gripping hand that on paper should hold things. But unfortunately, if you try to get the slingshot in his hand, he just can't hold it. He just can't. You kind of have to just take the top of the Y and just rest it against his hand. Funny though enough, I'm just going to put this one down here for a second. I want to bring back in the original Bart. Bart, I could actually get him to not hold it, but at least hold it better. It's still a problem, though. I mean, you can see like he holds it just a little bit better, but a lot of times you sort of have to cheat. And you have to have it resting against his shoulder. I mean, if you're going to include accessories like this, one of 2 things should have been done. Either make the handle larger, so like it wouldn't matter if the grip was a little bit more relaxed, he would have been able to hold it. Or just give him better hands. Just give him better hands. Because like I said, like just to get this holding in his hands, you just have to rest on it and just hope for the best. I mean, he's not even really holding it the way that a traditional slingshot should be held. He's sort of just holding it like he's holding the letter Y. Anyways, we'll just take that out of his hand, move it aside. One of the things I'm sure you probably were curious about as well is, could you take the 2 head sculpts and swap them around? Say you liked the blue t-shirt, for example, and you want to use it with a regular expression. Well, you could. Here's one problem that you're going to be facing. You can pop the heads off. They're just working on ball joints, or not even ball joints, little peg joints. If you're looking at them too, you're going to have a harder time getting them back in place because it's sort of like a mushroom peg. You could technically take the head off, and you could do the exact same thing with Bartman, and you could swap the heads around. So like if you wanted to have like this face on this body, you could. Here's 2 problems that you can be facing. I guess you're only going to have really one problem. Like the second problem really is getting the head back in place. You have to kind of twist it. And when you twist it, there you go. You have to kind of put it in on an angle. You have to turn it down and then push pressure against it. And you're going to leave all these indentations from the top of his hair embedded into your skin. It does work. Here's the other problem that you're going to be facing as well. Is the cape is only loose here. This sits over top of the mushroom peg. But if you look at the back of the cape, there is actually a peg. I'm going to move this back so you guys can see. There is a slot actually embedded into the plastic, and then there's a peg on the inside of his cape to ensure that the cape isn't going to go anywhere. which only then means if you're going to even consider the idea of removing the heads and replacing them around, you're still going to be stuck with the idea of him having a cape. There's no way around that. From a head sculpt standpoint, obviously, like as already mentioned, it's going to be having a different expression than the regular Bart. The scowl works quite well for the idea of him being Bartman. I will say, too, like the coloring of the cowl looks a lot more like it did in the cartoon, as I mentioned earlier. Looking at the one from Super 7, the colors for the Super 7 were way too blue. This makes a little bit more sense. It really should be kind of more like this purple color. And at least, as well, the cape does match the colors as well. Now, with the Bartman also as well, he does have now, again, the blue t-shirt. He does have the blue shorts, whereas the one we got from Super 7 used like orange t-shirt, which again, like really made the argument, like, could they not have just included a regular Bart head? Because you could have just easily swapped it out. You could have easily taken the cape off, and you could have just had a regular Bart. They didn't do it. They didn't do that. So there is a color, though, difference between the two t-shirts. And I'm also glad, too, that they're really using a different t-shirt than just a regular Bart, so it doesn't simply just is a case that they just gave him a brand new Malibu Stacy hat, so to speak, and just give him a different head sculpt. At least they did color the bodies differently, at least the t-shirt end of things. Now, the articulation obviously is going to be the exact same between the two figures. I just want to show you guys what the cape looks like. It's a good hard plastic, too. And while maybe being a little disappointed that I couldn't swap the heads out, I think it makes a little bit more sense that the peg is there just so the cape is going to flop around. Usually is the case where they're going to use bodies like this, that they just simply put the cape over top of a peg, and then they put the head on top of it. And that's the only thing that's kind of holding everything together. It always usually means that the cape ends up just being a floppy mess. With at least it plugged in the way that it is, it ensures that the cape isn't going to go anywhere. I mean, you can't move it. It's a soft enough plastic, though. Again, I love the colors that they used for this. Now, for the figure's articulation, it's going to be the exact same as the earlier looked at Bart. So the head does rotate all the way around on that mushroom peg. You're not going to get any movement up and down. Forget about it. Arms hinge out. You can rotate them also all the way around as well. And I know they did say this earlier, that this guy is not listed on the back of the packaging. I just want to grab the packaging, show you guys what that looks like. On the back, you can see like it has Homer, it only has Bart, Otto, and Willie. Still got to pick up the Willie there. So like Bart seems to be the chase of this figure set. Also, too, I'm sure you guys are also curious, seeing as, I'm just going to get this guy to stand here for a second. I'm going to bring also back in the Bart. One of the other mentioned accessories, well, at least in his review, I did say that one also came included with Santa's Little Helper. If you guys wanted to see what it looked like with Santa's Little Helper, just, for the sake of sizing, I don't think it honestly really works. I mean, he's way too big. He fits obviously the scale of the Super 7 Bartman. It doesn't quite work as well when it comes to Jakks Pacific. It ends up looking kind of like a little tiny miniature horse. So, in case you guys are curious there. Like I said, though, the articulation for Bart is going to be the exact same. So the head is going to have straight swivel. You're going to get your ball joints going there for the shoulders. You can't quite rotate them all the way around just because the cape's going to kind of get in the way of things. Yes, he does still have loose elbows. That seems to be still an issue that we're facing here with this line. Swivel at the bicep, single hinge on the elbow. The arm, if you hold it, does rotate there a little bit as well. And the hands rotate also back and forth with a hinge back and forth there too. Like I said, different hand altogether here. We got the closed fist now. Dispensing justice, I suppose. He has a waist swivel. Legs do split out. You can bring the legs forward and back, no problems there. You can also rotate just where the leg attaches to the top of the shorts. He has a hinge there in his I don't want to say his ankle, in his knee. You can hinge it back and forth there too. I almost kind of really feel like they could have just avoided, well, maybe not. I was going to say like maybe they didn't necessarily need to put a hinge joint in his knee, but I guess if you wanted to, you would definitely need to use yourself a display stand, though, to pull this off. He isn't going to be able to really balance. I kind of did a little bit with Homer Simpson. Can I get it going here with Bart? Okay, maybe a little bit. Yeah, you can. If you want to get him to balance without the use of a display stand, you can pull that off. And I guess this isn't a bad thing, that the figures do have knee bends. Swivel back and forth on the feet, and as already mentioned, the figure does have pegals on the bottoms of his feet. Luckily, though, for me, the guy that was selling the Simpsons Wave 1 figures didn't have a Willie. Unfortunately, didn't have a Willie. But what he did, though, have was the Bartman. So when I picked up the Homer and I picked up the Otto, well, actually, you know what? Let's just bring them all in right now. When I picked up these figures, getting him to stand, and, of course, when I did pick up Bart, he happened to also say, too, I mean, obviously he was upselling me on all this. He also said, too, well, I have a Bartman. Would you be interested in a Bartman? And I said, heck yeah. That may have been literally the verbatim of the way I responded to it. So, while I did get these ones, I ended up getting this one also as well. When it was all said and done, I think I probably paid around $30 for them, which, to look at online listings of what these Jakks Pacific figures, whether you are lucky enough to find these or not, on average, think most online sites are listing them at $18. You do a little bit of conversion, you throw in the shipping charge and all that kind of stuff. Probably works out to be, about a $30 figure. You know, for what they are, I'm liking this line. I like him from the affordability standpoint. I mean, obviously, if you're comparing them with the stuff that we're getting for Super 7, Super 7 threw a lot more in there when it came to the accessory count. They threw in a lot more references. So with their version of Bartman, we got a couple of ripped up versions of, obviously, the Radioactive Man #1. We also got ourselves a Santa's Little Helper. I don't know, Santa's Little Helper is part of the Simpsons family 2.5-inch scale size. There's actually a family box set I still want to get my hands on. I've seen it at a couple of comic book stores. Not for a bad price, really, at all. Well, Super 7, I think, may have handled it better from the standpoint of the accessories and kind of being a little bit more kind of deep cuts for references to things that we saw in the episodes. I mean, from a cost standpoint, I mean, it's really hard to kind of start shelling out $80 to $100 per figure. These ones are a little smaller in size. They have, you know, I guess they have somewhat of the same levels of articulation, really, when you consider the only thing that's missing is the ball joints in their heads. But for, again, a $30 figure line, I think that's a much easier thing for your wallet to swallow than trying to pay, again, like $80 to $100. Bartman does, again, use a lot of the same elements as to be expected as the regular release Bart, and that's not a bad thing at all. At least, if anything, his cowl and his cape match a little bit more to the cartoon colors. The same can't be said for Super 7's release of him. You know, this isn't the first time a Bart hasn't been listed on the back of a Jakks-specific Simpsons packaging. There has been as well a 2.5-inch version 2 Bart Simpson that had the closed eye. It was a variation to the original regular release that we looked at here on this channel. Coincidentally also enough that both this one and the other Bart that both aren't listed on the back of the packaging happen to share the exact same accessory, a slingshot. Strange? It's probably not strange at all. But it's kind of interesting the fact that both Barts not listed on the back of the packaging happen to share the same accessory. I would also be surprised if I didn't find out that the slingshot, because I didn't pick up that other version of Bart, isn't in fact the exact same size. There's got to be reasons why the slingshot just doesn't fit into his hand. The skateboard does. Speaking of skateboards, though, I do think that this could have been an opportunity that Jack could have saw where a skateboard of a different deco could have been included. Or, hey, why not just scrap the whole idea of using a skateboard and not just release this guy with a slingshot and maybe just a stack of comics. Or one comic, Radioactive Man #1. What do you guys think of this figure? Let me know down below in the comments section. Do you kind of feel, again, like it was unnecessary for Jakks to include a skateboard when already the regular release Bart had the exact same, not just a skateboard, it had the exact same one. Also, if you guys are interested, I think these are mostly showing up in Target stores. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong down below in the comment section. I can certainly tell you, though, as a Canadian collector, I'm not finding these at all. Check Toys R Us, nothing. I checked local Walmarts, squat. The only place, and the continued place where I seem just to have any bit of luck finding these, is on the Facebook selling group, to which I usually tend to pay about $30 to $40 a figure. I don't mind paying a little bit more extra for the 5-inch figures because at least they pack a little bit more posability. But they got to definitely, I mean, I could wait it out, honestly, until the third quarter of 2024, which is coming up really fast. Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth, all sort of listing theirs as around an October release. I've already put in the pre-order for the Krusty the Clown and the Moe's phone over on Entertainment Earth. But again, they're not showing to start shipping those till September. Well, we're in September right now, so they could be shipping them soon, or it may mean I have to wait till the very end of the month. Either way, I'm sort of already telling you guys, we will be looking at Evil Krusty the Clown, and we also will be looking at Moe's Tavern's phone whenever they eventually do ship these. Have you guys been finding any of these? Let me know down below in the comments section. In the meantime, if you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid, throw it a like. Thank you. If you guys want to stick around for more so, though, I hope so. Hit the subscribe, turn on the bell, and of course come back. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.